everyone and welcome to the FC Fan TV. Merry Christmas, although this video is probably not as festive. Maybe it is for us fans, but definitely not for United fans. So as you should all know by now, but for those of you that don't, Jose Mourinho has been sacked from his job at Manchester United. He's no longer in charge. Everyone's, pretty surprised by this. I suppose by the fact that it's this early in the season. But if you actually look at the record, it's probably not. And what they've gone through this season and where they are in the table, it's actually not that shocking. And I think in the Premier League at the moment, there is no time to waste. And for a club like Manchester United, who are used to, winning big trophies, winning Premier Leagues, winning Champions Leagues, you can't be sixth from the table at this time. They're not just sixth in the table. I mean, they're behind Arsenal, but they're 8 points behind. So they're nearly 3 games behind. And I think the second half of the season's only going to get more difficult. Teams from the bottom start picking up. I know they've got some easy fixtures coming up against Cardiff and Huddersfield. But at the same time, those are the sort of teams that are going to be fighting against relegation. So if you've got all these problems with the manager and you stick with the manager in those times, it's not exactly doesn't really make any sense, does it? And also, I think it's just a long time coming, really. I will stick up for Mourinho in the fact that I do think there are a few players in that team that are a little bit too probably big for their boots, and as we all know, with what happened at Stamford Bridge, when it comes to player power, they genuinely have the last say. United aren't going to get rid of the likes of, to me, Paul Pogba, etc. For the sake of a manager, it's much easier just to replace the manager and put somebody else in. No matter how many times people say they think Jose Mourinho's finished, I really don't think that's the case. Maybe I'm delusional. Feel free to call me delusional, but I think he's a fantastic manager. I think he's a great character. You can't deny that he doesn't provide some entertainment to an extent. And also, he's won Premier League titles. So although maybe I think his style of football wasn't right for United in the end, this is their worst start to a season since, I think, 1991. So inevitably, they were going to have to part ways, to be polite, because if that was any other manager, especially at Chelsea, we know that that's sort of not really acceptable. United, I suppose it is a surprise appointment. I think United appointed Mourinho in the first place because he had a proven track record of winning Premier Leagues. They had a bad run of managers, what with David Moyes, etc. And they thought, let's get somebody with a lot of experience. But Mourinho's style of play is an incredibly defensive style of play. I don't think, United really used to play. To me, they've always been a more attacking style of football team, or club. So it was a strange appointment in that term. But Mourinho had a very good spell with them in the first year. Won the Europa League, a League Cup. So, he did all right. And any European trophy, as me and Roy always say, is a fantastic achievement. And I don't think that's gone unheard of. I just think by now, United want to be up there competing with the best, and I think when you're this far, when you're on 26 points and your rivals are on 44, 45 points, and you're challenging for the league at this season, at this stage in the season, it's just not gonna. The board aren't going to allow it to continue. And I think another thing as well, he had a lot of money to spend. I think I read it probably spent about 392 million around that on players. That was his allowance or something like that. And that's a lot. That's an incredible amount of money. And I think when you spend that amount of money, you have to be able to get something more out of your team than sixth place. So whilst I don't agree with a lot of the things that go on with player power, etc., I think, like I said it before, the days of having players like John Terry and Frank Lampard and players that would really admire and acknowledge the brilliance of Mourinho, whether it was back then or whenever, I think they're gone. We're used to big players now. In terms of big egos, that's what I mean. I don't mean in terms of ability, because we all know that Frank and JT are basically the best out there, if I lose to say myself. But no, listen, he fell out with, players. I'm sure he had some disagreements with the board. We obviously don't know what goes on inside of it. There was that thing televised, wasn't there, where he was blatantly having a sort of argument with Paul Pogba or something like that. And, you can't really have those things going on. I think he knew he was being filmed that day, so he was obviously not shy about it. But listen, I think it's sad in terms of the fact that he will get scrutinised. He will get a lot of just very negative things that come down on him compared to other managers. I think if this was a different situation, if it was some different manager, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. I think Mourinho just attracts that media attention. Some of it he brings on himself. Others I think are very harsh. You know, there are times when Mourinho loses a football game and all the heat's on him, and the same manager can do exactly the same thing and there's not really much to talk about. So I do think in the way that sometimes Chelsea are targeted, that this happens to him. So I don't want to be too harsh. I know a lot of you will disagree, and a lot of you will be really happy that he's been sacked, and you think his career's ended and so on. But I don't think that. I just think over the years he's probably become very frustrated with the way he's been treated, and as a result, it comes out in a lot of anger and aggression. Well, not aggression, but just a lot of anger and probably a lot of sarcasm too, which isn't necessarily good when you're in charge of one of the biggest teams in the country, in the world. But it has come to an end, and I think obviously that their loss against Liverpool at the weekend was the final straw. And I probably have to agree for United now. It probably is just time for them to part ways, because you simply just can't be sixth place and challenging for the title when you're sort of too far behind now, and the performances haven't been good enough. So let me know what you think about it. We could go on all day. Mourinho, as Chelsea fans, has given us some great memories. I wonder what he'll do next. I wonder who United will have in next. And obviously, it doesn't affect us directly. But in terms of how they're going to continue to play for the rest of the season, we still have another game against them. If they do have a reasonable manager in, then obviously that's something for us to be a little bit wary about. And Sarri's going to have to change his tactics, change how he plays, change the team to how he thinks will fit the new, will beat the new manager, and we'll just have to see what happens there. But comment below, let me know what your thoughts are on this Mourinho situation. A lot of Twitter reactions are that people are very shocked. I don't think I'm shocked. I think like I said, in the Premier League, at this stage in this era, there's no time to mess about. So it doesn't shock me, but I would love to know your thoughts on it. And who do you think United are going to get in charge next? It'd be great to know your thoughts. So comment below, and of course, please click the subscribe button. There is now the Ask Sophie Part 2 on Patreon. So if you haven't subscribed there, please go ahead.